Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're back with another In Context. Today is August 8th. I think we need to discuss the recent events regarding the Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan pact of security pact of some sort. I have many questions regarding it. For example, some people are presenting this as an Islamic NATO, which the sentence itself is laughable in my opinion. Are they doing this to simply counter Iran? I think that's an angle we need to discuss. Are they doing this to counter Israel and their theft? That's something also possible. And another question mark is, how did Pakistan fit into this? Because they're a bunch of thieves. What do they want out of this? I didn't get that. I'll leave it to you.
So first, to exactly get the measure of this so-called Islamic NATO, people just need to take the view. So Mohammed Salman al-Sahyun gets his buddies Erdogan and Shabazz to sign a deal in Mecca. And then they go and pray in Haram to give it the feel and pomp of this is Islam. And then you look at the signing ceremony and you find that those officiating over it are women with half their heads exposed. Typically, kafirs, let's not forget about Muslims, when they have these kinds of things to create pomp and add heft to it, you get big guys with large build and military fatigues with lots of military regalia officiating over it. Muhammad Salman, however, thinks that he needs to send a different signal, that he is corrupting Islam in its own home and flouting Islam in its own home. So the only thing about Islamic about this agreement is Muhammad Salman wants to get rid of Islam. Okay, so let's forget about this nonsense, please. Let's now talk seriously. These are, Machiavellian politicians, and although they claim and hold the cloak of Islam, they have different goals out of this. And what happened is this particular move at this particular time achieves these goals for them. Beyond this point, they will probably diverge, and that wouldn't get very far. So let's drill down. The most obvious is al-Sahyun. So al-Sahyun wants to create the impression that he has support, he has quote-unquote Islamic legitimacy, that the Muslim world supports him in his clash with Iran, in addition to Israel, of course. In practice, although Pakistan has had a long tradition of placing Pakistani army in Saudi Arabia from the late 60s until the Bush Jr. war on the Muslim world in 2001, and you have just restarted in the last year. These forces have never fired a shot in anger. They were there to give the impression that the state is controlled. There is some understanding or some impression, which is quite reasonable, that the forces that existed in the 60s and 70s were actually meant as a counterbalance to the Saudi army, to prevent any attempts at coups from it. Besides that, Pakistan uses that as soldiers for hire, gets paid for them. So we're having a recreation of this. In this particular case, the soldiers are there to make believe for Iran that we have soldiers. But Pakistan is not about to shoot at Iran because it cannot shoot at Iran. It won't win this kind of war, and it doesn't need the trouble. Pakistan supports the blush in Iran, and Iran supports the blush in Pakistan. It don't need the trouble. In addition, Pakistan has an ongoing problem with Afghanistan, and they don't need the trouble of Iran coming in to aid Afghanistan. So this is complete nonsense. Pakistan is just, making noise to get paid. The Pakistani army, and when I say Pakistan, I mean the Pakistani army. The Pakistani army in the last few years has came out as an obvious enemy of the people because the people thought that they owned the country. So they thought that they can vote for a prime minister, so they put him in jail and put their preferred, the cheap thief as prime minister. The people opinion notwithstanding. So right now they are stuck. The economy is permanently in bad shape because they cannot manage, the military types cannot manage economies, cannot manage countries really. They are also in a war with a much larger country with deeper resources, India. So they are stuck. And they need all the money they can get to steal and to finance their war. So that's why they will get insults like this. And of course, the noise about we being Islamic and all of that nonsense is useful for propaganda to fool the fools locally, or those who want to be fooled, more accurately. As I said, Al Sahyun's part of this is just to create the image of him having Islamic support in addition to Israeli and Zionist support, but not the material fact of this. The only question is, why would Turkey involve itself in this? There are two aspects of this. The more utilitarian, obvious Machiavellian aspect is they want to sell arms to Arabia. And they have been doing some of this and they want to expand it. There is something a bit more, however, here, because Israel has been threatening Turkey for some time now. The Turkish government thinks that something like this fake NATO thing, Muslim NATO thing, could actually evolve by accident or by persistence into something more. And the something more they are thinking about is something that would contain, rather than confront Israel, just contain it by creating the consistent framework to prevent, others from starting to cut deals with Israel under the table and things like that. No more than this. That's the whole measure of it. That's about it.
What about Saudi Arabia's angle?
As I said, there is all this is about Iran. They are now directly allied with Israel in a war against Iran, and they want to gain quote-unquote Islamic legitimacy and the image of material support. But actually, the military force defending the Saudi Arabia is the Greek army, not Turkish army, the Greek army, the direct enemy of the Turkish army. So when the Houthis, attacked Yanbar, it was a Greek patriot unit that was trying to shoot it down, which is really laughable.
Where are they stationed?
Huh?
Where is this Greek unit stationed?
In Hijaz.
Okay.
Greece is a rebellious part of the Ottoman state. The Greek have never won a war. It's really laughable. But the latest, of course, about the Greeks is they are going to send helicopters to defend Abu Dhabi. And it turns out that this is part of a trilateral deal between the UAE, Greece, and Israel. Greece and Israel now are coming to become allies. And they think that they are going to contain Turkey this way. Anyway, and that scares Turkey, of course. So it turns out that the UAE is selling Greece spare parts for their American helicopters that are out of stock. So the American companies that produce them have stopped producing them. They are not available on the market, so that Israel can update these helicopters. And then Greece turns around and uses these helicopters to defend the UAE. What we're seeing is we have now two networks of colonies in the Middle East. There is the Zionist Team A network, which is now becoming integrated into the Israeli colonial network directly, like the UAE, Abu Dhabi, and Jordan, specifically. And then the Zionist Team B, which have long been integrated since about 10 years now, into the American military network to defend Israel, which is like Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Egypt. And that's about it. We have colonies of different colors, but they are colonies, and they are actually defending Israel and fighting anything that smells of Islam. With Muhammad Salman flouting the rules of attire in Mecca publicly.
How do the people on the street respond to this?
Well, they think that a lot of fools think that this is the way out. This is what is going to deliver us. I'm not sure what deliver us to what. But that is not accidental, because you have a lot of government liars who are throwing the incense into the air that, yeah, this is great, this is going to help you. And if you're foolish, you believe that. But look at the picture. It tells you what's happening. Just eyeball it. Don't listen to nonsense. Eyeball stuff.
Yeah, there's a there's a show I always reference when I talk to my circles. It's called the Diplomat, and forget the fiction side of it, but they really portray how important public perception is. They work very hard in every single photo and every single video to present a certain image, so the people are always, tricked, subdued, altered, brainwashed, whatever word you want to insert. So I see your point.
Look, this doesn't require a show. If you have followed international affairs long enough, you know that the image is an integral part of the product, the image you create. So where people stand, what they put on, how they look like while announcing something is an integral part of the product because it's meant to deliver a message. But what I'm saying here is people should look at the images, not just listen to the rubbish produced by government mouthpieces. When the government mouthpieces tell us that this is deliverance, it isn't deliverance. This is nonsense. There might be something from, because the Turkish government thinks that somehow you could use this over the long term to contain Israel, as I'm saying, meaning you could use it to contain Team A, Zionist Team A, because Zionist Team A are at contradiction with Zionist Team B, and I think they can use this to check one with the other, to create, political pressure and public opinion pressure to check one with the other. That's about it. But this is very marginal. It isn't a real thing. The last thing I'd like to discuss are the recent pronouncements by the Iranian government. They make very interesting pronouncements, which, on the face of it, if you don't put it in context, are quite correct. Muslims are brothers by the statement of Quran, by the statement of the Prophet. If you are Sunni, Shi'i, or none, as long as you believe in Allah, His Messenger, and Quran, you are a Muslim. And they are brothers by definition. And it isn't just because Allah said so, it is because this is how we perceive the world, and this is how the world perceives us. No debate. Okay. But then he tells you things that are completely out of context. He tells you, for example, that we shouldn't allow the Americans to set us against each other. Agreed. But it's actually Iran that opened the door to the US to attack Afghanistan and Iraq. He tells you that the Americans want to come in and steal our oil, which is quite correct. Actually, the Americans are stealing Iraqi oil. That is correct. The way the Americans run their Iraqi colony is the oil sales are not paid to the Iraqi government. They are paid to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and then the US government allows them to use the money to pay for government expenses. So essentially, it's they are literally under the guardianship of the US. It's a colonial arrangement. This is the model of Venezuela. Then you look at it, actually, this arrangement was arrived at between the US and its minions in Iraq. Those minions in Iraq are actually Iran products. The deal was signed in Tehran. Iran brokered this deal. And it said their guys governing Iraq. So the deal he is saying that it is treasonous was brokered by Iran. Put things in context. And then he goes and tells you, well, and Iran is not going to roll over in 2 days like to the US invasion like Syria. Yes, Iran has not rolled over. Iran actually has changed the international order by stopping the organizing state of the order in its tracks. No. The US didn't bring down your vicious rule of Syria. The people brought down your vicious rule. That was a crime. And claiming that the fall of this criminal regime is doing is, adding insult to injury.
I see your point.
There is a lot of propaganda going on, and the worst kinds of propaganda are those that use facts out of context, because the limited thought would say, well, actually, it's a fact. How can you oppose a fact? Well, I oppose a misleading fact, a fact out of context.
I think we got it.